Imam Muhammad bin Yazid Ibn Majah Al Qazvini died on a Monday, the 21st of Ramadan, 273 Al-Hijra. You know, in his dialect, you say it with a V, but it's an Arabic text, so people usually say the we because they don't have a V. Narration 370 indicates that water doesn't become too impure for one spouse to use it as ablution or bath water after the other if they're washing up after a state of, keep away from. It's not a state where one taps the dirt instead of using that water. That's basically what's meant. 382 indicates that a person and their spouse can get the ablutions the same time from the same dish of water, and there may even be physical contact as a result, like the hand or the foot or something. Well, it doesn't give the example of the foot, but you know what I mean. And 385 indicates that if you have water that has been, that they've put fruit in, and I would presume dried fruit too, that if this is the water you have for ablutions, it's perfectly fine. 387 indicates that there's no problem with washing up with seawater. And also the meat of it that would be labeled as carry-on if it was something of the land, it's fine. Of course, there's conditions to watch out for that, but yeah, the meat of the sea is lawful even without, the cutting the neck or piercing the heart with the arrow or, proper methods of slaughter of land animals. 393 indicates that when you get up from sleep, before putting your hand into a main vessel, you would want to pour water on it once or twice or thrice because you don't know what happened in your sleep. Same thing with getting ablutions. Say, well, I didn't, I don't, well, 399 indicates that there's no ritual or contact prayer except the one who has gotten ablutions. And there are no ablutions for the one who has not washed up with the mention of God. And this should be made beforehand. 401 indicates that it's best to start putting on your footwear and washing and combing and that sort of thing on the right side. 407 indicates that it's a good practice to start ablutions by inhaling water unless you're fasting. And of course, just like the rinsing of the mouth, this is not a required part of the ablutions, but it's a pretty good part to have in there. Narration 477 indicates that if you've lost consciousness, largely by indication of the eye, right, that you should expect to lose ablutions by passing gas, and therefore if that relaxes, you figure that you have lost ablutions, and you should get them. Okay, 478 has a narration that indicates that when traveling, you can go 3 days without taking off your socks or shoes, or leather socks is the example, but we can be real about that. But the except in case of being in a state of keep away from, the sexual release, the breaking ablutions, the sleep, the urine and the defecation, that does not mean you have to take off your shoes to wash your feet. Next, we have the indication that if you touch your private organ, that you should get ablutions. Now, that doesn't mean your knees to your navel. It means, your sexual organ. And this also, there's references, to 482. This is the theme going on there. But one of the things that you find with that is that you also have indication that it's your butt crack too. But if like the back of your hand accidentally touches it or something when you're getting dressed or something, that's actually, there's narration that that's not included, and I think that's where some of the other things are coming from. Narration 555 indicates that the being able to leave your shoe or your sock on for 3 days, this is something that is only 1 day for the person who is a resident. 543 is particularly important, I guess, amidst all this, because it indicates that you're supposed to wipe over your feet, just like Surah 5 indicates. Because you have, wipe over the leather sock, which you'd call a leather shoe, but, moccasin sort of thing. And some people say, well, your sandal is not a traditional sandal, so it doesn't, it's like, yeah, people need to knock it off with that. 352 is where Muhammad told someone that when he was going to the bathroom, not to greet someone in that condition, because they shouldn't respond. Except, of course, lights. Don't turn off the lights. Well, that's a modern situation, but you know what I mean. 351 was an occasion where he was urinating and somebody greeted him, and he finished, tapped the ground, and returned the greeting. Narration 350 is an example of, well, he explained that he didn't return the greeting until after he had gotten ablutions. Narration 346 is how people were saying Muhammad urinates like a woman because he sat down to do it. And he would say, woe to those who, because the children of Israel used to cut off parts of their clothes that got urine on them. Then we have a case of Muhammad passing by some graves where people were being punished for not being careful about not getting urine on themselves and spreading malicious gossip. And 348 indicates that perhaps most of the most of the torment of the grave is because of people not being careful about those impurities upon themselves. Urine is, of course, the most common one. For most people, in certain circumstances, you sit down for privacy, and for most people,